Hello, everybody. My name is Christine Rank. I'm a brain spotting trainer, and I met David Grand in 1999. 1999 is a long time ago, 24 years ago, and I'm here to tell you, I'm here to tell you a couple of I think are pretty interesting stories. But I want to say that before I became a psychotherapist, I was in show business for many years. I'm an actor singer, and I lived in New York City for most of my adult life. I have since moved about 3 years ago to Nashville, and Cynthia and I have worked together for a long time, and so I am proud to be not only a part of Southeast Brain Spotting Institute, but also to be in the area that we call the Southeast, since I now live in Nashville. However, when I was living in New York City, um, I was in show business, but at some point I decided to make a switch, and I was in psychoanalysis at that time. And she helped my psychoanalyst help me a lot. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go and I'll become a psychoanalyst. And so I went back to school for a bazillion years and got a 4-year analytics certificate to do psychoanalysis with clients. And then I started and I hated it. I was miserable. So I was miserable. So anyway, I was very lucky enough to know somebody who had taken an EMDR training. So that sounded interesting to me. So I took the EMDR training with Francine Shapiro in 1996. And as soon as I could, I started using EMDR with my clients. They got better and they left. That made me so happy. Somewhere along the way, since David Grand was an EMDR trainer, I got on what I call a magic email list, and he sent me a flyer. I never knew anything about him. Sent me a flyer saying that he was going to do what he called natural flow EMDR with actors. So I signed up for that, and I schlepped all the way out to Long Island to take this workshop with this man, David Grand. And I watched him do some of the most amazing stuff with actors. At that time, he was still doing natural flow, so it was slow eye movements. And he was also using his own bilateral sound, which I also didn't know anything about. And he was just doing stuff that I couldn't even believe. And I kept saying to the person sitting next to me, wow, that's amazing. Wow, oh, this is so great. And she said to me once, she said, well, why don't you go up there and ask him if he'll work with you? Well, I'm shy and kind of dumb. And I said, no, no, I can't. No, no, no. Two more times, God bless her. Two more times she said that to me. Go, why don't you go up there? The third time she said, go up there. So I did. I went up. And I talked to him. I introduced myself, and he said, of course, I'll work with you. But I want to say that I shudder to think that I almost missed one of the most important moments in my life by saying, I can't. And that my angel, I don't know who she is, got me up there. So I'm very grateful. So, P.S., then David and I started, because I know actors. So I would bring him actors, and he would let me sit in on these sessions. And at that time, this was before, probably many of you know about how he works with actors now. Right now, you can find a character spot. But at the time, we were doing a visualization exercise to get people into character by having them look in a mirror and shift things around a little bit so that they could come out of that visualization feeling like they were in their character, and then they would go into a monologue. So that day, I happened to have a friend named David Tony. I still have that very dear friend, and he was getting ready for the role of Othello in the Shakespeare play Othello, the great Moorish warrior. And it's a huge role, and he was going to be doing it in a very prestigious theater. So there was a lot of pressure on him to do a good job. And he was willing to experiment with David Grand. So they, both David and David came, and we all three of us got together, and David Grand got David Tony into character as the character of Othello. And then he said to me, I've got to go and take a phone call, so you take over. So I was really nervous, and he'd never done that to me before. So, all right, so now I have Othello sitting on my couch in front of me. He's Othello. He's not my friend anymore. He's Othello. And so I said to him, let me back up. Usually actors use the history from the play to inform the character, what actually happens in the play to the character. And then the rest of the time, they use their own experiences, emotional experiences from their past, things that seem to resonate with the character and allow them to really get into the character by using their own feelings of experience in their own lives. That's usually the way it works. So, all right, so David Tony Othello is sitting in front of me, and I said, so Othello, I know that you had epileptic seizures when you were young. What was that like for you? So that was in the play, that he had epileptic seizures. And so Othello says to me, well, it was one day I was sitting, I was in the courtyard. I was sitting on my father's big horse, surrounded by my father's men, and I started to have a seizure, and I fell off my horse. My horse nearly trampled me. The men around me were screaming and not knowing what to do, and I was having a seizure. And then in my office, on my couch, Othello began to have a seizure. With the works, and he's doing this on my couch, and then he falls off onto the floor, and he's in a seizure state. And I hadn't a clue. So at that time there were no pointers or anything. So the only thing I knew to do, I didn't know how to pull him out of character, and I wasn't sure I should under the circumstances. So I just got down on the floor with him, and I was right there in his face, so he could see my face. And I was talking to him and inviting him to calm down, and how can I help, and so on. So eventually he did calm down, came back up onto the couch, and then we walked through another exercise, the opposite of the first exercise, to get him back into David Tony instead of the character of Othello. And now we know that there are actor spots, self spots, that are very important to get an actor back into themselves. So we did that, and now he's sitting on the couch, David Tony, my dear friend. And I said, so David, what just happened? And I said, has anything like that ever happened to you before? And he said, no. He said, no. He said, I don't know what just happened. He said, I've never had a seizure, but I want to tell you that it was terrifying, and what it felt like was that the character was having memories, not me. They weren't my memories. Usually I use my memories. The character was having memories, and it was Othello memories, not mine. And so, wow, that's amazing. And it was at that point, or similar situations that kept happening, that we realized that characters have memories and that we can access them. Now we know we can access them very easily with brain spotting. But that's a fascinating premise, hard to understand. But I feel very grateful to have been privy to that early exploration. And additionally, I feel very, very grateful to my angel for introducing me to David Grand. Thank you for listening.